Got my main man Jerome with me.
What's up, Darrell?
Hey, today
Oh
we
my
have a
goodness.
special guest. We
Yes.
have Judge Bernice Donald, and man, we're gonna really get a lot of information. So this is gonna be a really, really good show in my mind, and that's always weird because it's just in my mind. But anyway, before we start, we need to give our shout outs. Give our shout outs to California. Give our shout outs to Little Rock, Arkansas. Shout outs to West Memphis, Arkansas. Shout outs to Memphis, Shelby County. Shout out to Mississippi and mom, family. Shout out to great state of Missouri. Shout out to Jerome's family. And
Hey,
now we got
family.
Judge Donald here. Shout out to her family.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, so just to Jerome, this is, I mean, when you told me, and man, I see Judge and talk to Judge Donald all the time,
Yeah.
so and we text, and she also gives me a I need you text.
Right.
You know. But when you told me, and I had never even considered or even talked to her about being on the show. So when you told me that, that we could have Just Down on the show, man, I was really excited. And when we look at this from this perspective, we're talking about Judge Donald, we're talking about, a legend.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, so she starts off in, city court,
General Sessions.
General Sessions Court.
Yeah.
And then,
Right. Right out of law school too, Judge.
yeah, I'm talking about, and nobody believes
Right,
you can
right.
be there, and then you do General Sessions,
Right.
you do bankruptcy court,
Yes.
you do federal court, and then, because the thing about federal court, and most people don't realize this, it's a life of its own.
Yes.
So, and then they comb down or they look into every crevice of your life.
Yeah.
That
You
is
know,
true.
Yeah.
And so she makes it through that process, because lawyers are always interesting. So she makes it through that process unscathed because she made it on the bench, and that's as a district court judge. Then she has to do this same thing again and put herself through it again because she got elevated or selected to go to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals,
Yes.
which is the appellate level, and goes through that microscope again and makes it through. And then now she's retired, and she's really here today as a benefit to the citizens.
That's right.
One of the things that Judge Donald has done or has been doing over time is she's taken up and been appointed to do a lot of city of Memphis things. At one point, the DOJ did an investigation of the city of Memphis, and they issued a ruling that was, in my mind, probably extremely negative for the city of Memphis. They've since rescinded that position, but the facts of what they determined were in fact still there. And so what they decided to do was be preemptive and put somebody that had a lot of reputation to look over these things and make some decisions. And so today we have Judge Donald. We really want to talk about the city of Memphis, the Memphis investigation, projects, and what can we expect
Sure.
in the future.
Darrell, thank you so much for honoring me by inviting me onto the show once Jerome presented the idea to you. It is really an honor to be here. One of the greatest things we can do is provide information. We now know how valuable information is because now that is an industry unto itself
That's
right
right.
now. I want to back up though and give your audience a little bit of background because I know you have a quadrant of young people
Right.
who listen to the show.
Yes.
And I want to give them a little bit of information about the things you mentioned in my background. First of all, I think it's important for everyone out there listening to know that if you prepare yourself, if you acquit and equip yourself to achieve a goal, you can do that, but you have to be resilient and you have to be persistent.
Yes.
In General Sessions Court, when I ran for judge, I'd been out of law school a little bit, around 2.5 years, and that's pretty young.
Yes.
But I had a lot of quantifiable experience, and I believed that I could do this. I had been in the courts as a lawyer, and I went to the community. I got the help of young people, and I was seeking a court in which I had practiced for pretty much my entire legal career, as young as it was.
Yes.
And when the citizens of Memphis and Shelby County elected me on August 5th of 1982, I became the first African American woman in the history of the state of Tennessee to serve as a judge.
Oh my.
And that provided an opportunity for people to see African American women in a role they hadn't seen them before.
Yes.
And that becomes important. But if you are fortunate enough and blessed enough to occupy that space, you have an obligation to the community to serve with dignity and honor so that somebody else who wants to seek that opportunity has an opportunity to put themselves
Yes.
forward. And I stayed there for 6 years, and then I made a 180-degree turn and applied for a position on the bankruptcy court. That is a federal court, and Darrell, as you said, you have to undergo an FBI background check. They want to know everything about you. They want to know every place you've lived, who you've communicated with, what you've written, what you've spoken, and they investigate every aspect of your life. And this is another thing I want to say to people. You know, every day you live, you're creating your future. You're building your resume. So the things you do now, when you may not be thinking about what you want to do 5 or 10 years from now, they can come back
That's right.
to help or haunt you. They want to know whether you've paid your taxes on time, whether you've had credit cards that had high balances that you weren't able to pay on time. They want to know whether you have been on social media, putting yourself in compromising positions. And those things can actually keep you from achieving your goals. So it might be fun right now, but keep in mind that those things are out there in cyberspace. They will go on, and the people who will be viewing those will not have the context necessarily that you would hope they would view it, and that can really short-circuit your career.
That's right.
I stayed on the bankruptcy court 7.5 years, and then President Clinton nominated me to the U.S. District Court. And that is a lifetime position, but I had to undergo another FBI check, and they check with people who have served favorably with you and people who have opposed you. So civility, professionalism, courtesy, and all of those things matter. So you may really dislike the way somebody has conducted themselves before you, but the right thing to do is not to lash out, to write some kind of vitriolic post. It's not to go in and commit some kind of criminal act, but you be a professional and try to lift that person to a higher level. So that was a lifetime appointment that I stayed with for 15.5 years, and then President Obama appointed me to the U.S. Court of Appeals, which is one level below the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yes.
And that position covered Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And the circuit court, the Sixth Circuit rather, has a panel of 16 active judges. We sit in panels of 3, and we hear appeals from the district court. I've had a marvelous career. And so when Mayor Paul Young called me about this opportunity with the police department, I was honored, but I recognize that it is an awesome responsibility. And I will get to your next question after I say this. The Justice Department was in Memphis investigating the police department for about 2 years before they issued their report. They issued the report on December 4 of 2024. And they made some significant findings in that report, Darrell, as you alluded to. And I'm going to go over those things, and I want you to know, listening audience, that because there is an allegation made, doesn't mean that that allegation is necessarily the gospel. And what we're doing now, we're taking those findings and we're going back looking at policies of the city, looking at actions of the department, and we will come up with a plan that I will then monitor to improve the department and to make the Memphis Police Department the most professional police department that it can possibly be. That's what the mayor wants. The findings of the report, they found that Memphis Police Department escalates encounters involving low-level traffic offenses. And I want to say to the public, one of the things we need to do is make certain that we educate police, but that we also educate the citizenry.
Sure. Yes.
Because if Mr. Payne comes to me and he confronts me about something, and then I take that all out of context and blow up, well, that's going to invite a different response than it would be if he came to me in a respectful manner and we had a dialogue.
Absolutely.
They found that the Memphis Police Department uses unjustified neck restraints. They found that the department uses unreasonable force on people who are restrained and already under control. And if that's true, that's a violation of federal law. They found that the police department's use of less lethal weapons were excessive and thus violated the law. There are a number of other findings that they made, and they found that there was disparate policing in the African American community than there was in the white community. So all of these things we're looking at, but with all of the experience I've had, I don't have a policing background. And so we will use subject matter experts, people who are professionals, researchers, and people to go over this data and to find out whether officers are being properly disciplined, whether or not there are gaps in the training, whether or not the policies are in some way deficient, whether or not there is bias in the policing across communities. And we will end up writing a report, but we'll also engage these professionals to train the department. Because I want to tell you, notwithstanding this report, there are many, many, many good men and women who conduct themselves professionally on that department. They want to do a good job, but they also want to go home to their families at the end of the day.
Yes.
And we don't discount that. So we will give a fair and balanced appraisal and review of the policies. Some of these policies have already changed since the time the Justice Department came, but we will keep the community advised of what's going on and will be spearheading that effort under the or in collaboration with these professionals.
Yes.
And I've talked a long time.
No,
so
no,
I'll stop.
no.
Well, let me, and I'm probably the wrong person,
Okay.
and the reason why, obviously I do a lot of civil rights cases.
Yes.
But policing or police officers as a whole, there is this air of I'm the boss. So if I'm wrong, I'm going to be bossly wrong. So my question is there a thought process or a concern about a culture within the department just by mentality that has to be worked on and changed?
According to the Justice Department report, yes, there is a culture that the police do not engage in appropriate de-escalation. And I think part of the thing that you're saying about the bossiness, that in itself is a manifestation of some of that escalation. As I said before, that we take the report for what it reports, and we're going to go behind it
Right.
with professionals who are going to investigate all of those things. The people from the Justice Department talk to a number of members from that community, but we're also going to be having meetings in community to find out from the community how do you perceive policing in your community. They may say exactly what you said, and we're not just talking to people who are going to be academics or ministers. We want to talk to people who've had encounters.
That's right.
So we want to get that, and we'll be collecting that information. But we have got to make certain that we have a professional police department that respects the rights of all people, that police all people as citizens deserving of respect and dignity, and we must apply constitutional norms no matter who is the object of that policing. So that's the goal. But I don't want to leave here without saying we, the community, also have an obligation. Because the police rather, are the public, and the public is the police. We can't have, 2,000 police officers and put all of the responsibility on them to police our city 24/7. But when they do police it, it must be done constitutionally, it must be done with dignity, and it must be done with respect, and it must be done from a position of equal treatment.
Well, so one of the things I've learned and I've watched, there's two things. The first thing is I don't want to say if it's the police department or the city of Memphis, but a lot of times there's a lot of police initiatives, and a lot of these initiatives are really, really good initiatives. I mean, because what has happened over the years, and tell me, I don't know how this has affected the system, but we went from police officers being in communities, walking, talking, hanging out with the citizens, to driving and patrolling in cars and not actually having a physical interaction with the public. How much of that has really changed or made policing problematic?
That is a keen observation that you make. I have talked with police chiefs and citizens in other communities, and one police chief with whom I train is the chief of the St. Petersburg Police Department. There's a different demographic. There's smaller community, but this chief implemented a program that's called Park, Walk, and Talk. So
I like
hour
that.
a month, every officer who patrols the streets of St. Petersburg has to go into the community they patrol rather, park their car. They're not making any arrests. They're just going, knocking on doors, introducing themselves, and meeting the people on the other side of those doors. It's not a confrontational situation. They're not meeting each other in crisis. What that has led to is greater trust, more equitable policing, but it's also led to higher quality policing, because when something does happen, the people in that community know the officer, and they're more willing to come forth and give information and help to solve those problems. So I believe that real community policing, not just the label community policing, real true community policing is one of the keys to solving this issue that we have. We can't just stay in the cars and just meet people in the community at the time when there's a crisis, when we're trying to make a arrest, when we're hunting for somebody. And an annual giveaway of turkeys at Christmas time is not going to do that.
That's right.
Those are the good initiatives. Yeah.
Nor will, an occasional basketball game in the community. There's got to be real, true community policing.
Yeah, but on top of that, again, I like some of the initiatives, like you just hit on the turkeys and just being around people that need help. I mean, but sometimes it's not enough.
That's the point. That can't be all of the initiative.
Right.
It can't be. And let me just say, as I have gone about this community, there have been people who have said to me, we need more policing in my community, because people are fearful.
Right,
But
that's
people
right.
should not be a hostage
That's
in
right.
their own home.
That's right.
And there is a role for police.
Sure.
Right.
But
Right.
it's got to be professional policing, it's got to be respectful policing, and it's got to be policing with dignity. And it can't be us against them. We can't look at and project our own biased stereotypes onto every person who's in that community, every 16-year-old who's got his pants hanging down, or every, every person who might have fingernails that are longer than we would.
Or tattoos.
Or tattoos,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got to be mindful and
Yes.
understand that we all have these stereotypes in our mind,
That's
but
right.
we cannot go out and make projections about people based on our own biased
That's right.
stereotypes.
And one of the things too is that we really ask our police officers to do too much.
Absolutely.
We make them social workers, they're health providers, and sometimes that needs to be parsed out in a different way. One of the things is the what is this? The CIT
Yeah, the
team.
crisis intervention team.
That's one of the most important things, because many people who have confrontation with police officers are suffering some type of mental issue, and so that shouldn't be met with gunfire or taser or something. It should be, again, used in the de-escalation type of.
As a point of pride, as I have begun this work and I have talked to people who were involved in the Baltimore Reform Initiative, people who were involved in the New Orleans Police Initiative, Seattle. I've talked to some of the people who were in Minneapolis. And the one thing I have heard from those individuals is that Memphis has the #1 crisis intervention team
Mm.
in the country.
Oh,
It is
my
the model.
goodness.
It is
Oh.
the model.
Hmm.
But as you say,
Yeah.
you can have a model, but if you're calling on the police to do everything, then we're overtaxing a singular
True,
resource,
true.
Right.
and that's going to impact that.
True.
You know, but the second thing I also was going to talk about, Judge, and you know, most people hate it. Technology. Most people hate technology, right? But the best thing that ever happened was body cameras. Because the old rule, and we say that, I say this with my kids, and people say this with their kids, and people say with other ones, right? You will do a lot of stuff when you don't think nobody watching.
Interesting.
The camera's always on.
Yes.
So if the camera's always watching you, and you know it's always watching, now if you're gonna do stuff and you know the camera's on, you shouldn't be doing that job. But if you pretend like the camera is always on, and I'm gonna work based off of everybody is checking my every move, my every word, my every statement,
Sure.
then you will do a better job just overall.
Well, I want to disagree slightly with your
Okay.
initial premise,
Okay.
and that is that everybody hates technology. I think people love certain technology, but if you're talking about departments and body cams and that kind of a thing, some people do not like that. And I think the public has a right to be suspicious when something happens, and there are periods when all of a sudden the body camera
Sure.
is
Sure.
off,
Sure.
or it conveniently did not get turned on.
Sure.
People have a right to question
Right,
that,
right.
and there have to be policies, and there has to be adherence to those policies, and the supervisory levels have to make sure that those policies are enforced.
Exactly.
And when there is a failure to enforce the policies, that there is
Consequences for
consequences,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
discipline.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
it can't
Yeah.
just be we're all in the same
No,
band,
no.
and I'm gonna wink, wink, slap, slap.
No.
No, it can't be.
And that's the concern,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
Judge, you
That's
hit
right.
it on the head, because that's the concern, because, you know, again, I do what I do, but always the concern is a lot of these organizations have policies.
Yes.
And the policy says, so for instance, with the police, the policy says if you have an excessive force or any type of force that's been alleged, then what the supervisor is supposed to do is review all the body cameras.
Right.
That's, and you probably know this better than me, but that's Memphis policy. But what we have learned is that wasn't happening. So they would have those policies and those requirements, but then they wouldn't do those things. So a policy that nobody wants to kind of pay attention to
Right.
or follow through on.
A policy on paper, it's just words on paper. It's
That's
just like-
exactly
It's just
right.
like I tell people all the time. As a country, we have always had good, strong laws. We had good, strong laws during slavery,
Oh my
during Jim Crow, during the whole civil rights movement.
True.
But, laws are not self-executed.
That's true.
And policies aren't self-implemented.
That's true.
So if we have a policy and we're not enforcing that policy, and we're not holding people accountable and responsible and disciplining them, then what we're saying is, well, your conduct is okay.
And Dr. King said it best. Just be truthful with what you said on paper. We hold these truths. Then that's all we're asking for is to follow what you've already said.
Absolutely.
And you have to be committed to what you said, and we'll be a much better place.
And you have to make sure that all people
That's
are included in the we.
That's exactly right.
Because if it's just we,
Yeah,
Jerome and
right,
me,
right.
then,
And Darrell's not right.
whoever's
Exactly.
on the outside.
Right.
Well, so so Jerome and I, Judge, we used to have this conversation about this type of thing. And, the Civil Rights Act original was developed in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Most people always talking about the title, the Civil
In the
Rights Act of
66,
1960.
right.
There was no need for the Civil Rights Act of 1960 because it already existed
Absolutely.
in 1800.
Right.
Yes.
But it's on paper, It's got a policy. It says what you're supposed to do, how to follow it. And nobody, if you got policies, rules, and regulations, and nobody uses, what good are they?
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Now, Judge, with these, with this initiative, with this oversight,
Yes,
what is the end goal? I don't know if that makes sense.
it does make sense. The end goal is to review all of the policies, find out where there are gaps, and then come up with a comprehensive plan that takes into account remedies for the gaps. It's a remedial process, and then make certain that the men and women on the department are trained. There was some question about whether or not they understood their obligations under the Constitution for stops, searches, seizures,
Yes.
to make sure that everybody gets training, and not just a one and done, but that there is a process to continue training, that they impose discipline, that they do, that they have checks on people to make sure that they continue to be fit for duty. It's really an accountability thing, and that where people are found to have disregarded and violated policy, that there are consequences, and to build trust in the community,
Yes.
respect by the police for the community, and respect for police from the community. So it's two ways. So we're going to be working on multiple fronts, but we will have an implementation plan. We will have a dashboard or a website where these things will be posted. We're going to be having community meetings throughout the process. But then after then, the mayor said he doesn't want this to go on, forever, but it will be targeted and timed. I do want to say one other thing since I mentioned the mayor. In most areas where these things have gone on, there has been a consent decree. Justice Department has come in.
Yes.
They have made their findings. They propose remedies. They go to court. They either go to the court and sue, or they ask the city to enter into a consent decree. They'll be monitored by the court. The Justice Department invited the city to do this, and Mayor Young, in his wisdom, said, I am not the kind of CEO who needs somebody to make me do what needs to be done. If there are deficiencies, if there are violations, I will commit to the citizens of Memphis to correct those.
I like that. Yeah.
Yes, and it turns out he was very wise for that, because as you know now, the federal Justice Department has pulled back.
Yes.
Cities
Yes.
who entered into these consent
Yes.
decrees, they have been ordered to stand down.
Yes.
But there is no standing down for Mayor Young.
Yes.
It is full speed ahead. Get the job done, because I, as CEO, am committed to these citizens to get this done.
I like that as
yeah,
a
I
thought
do too.
process.
Yes.
One of the other things that, this is a good process and a good want.
Yes.
The real question becomes, in my mind, so unfortunately, since COVID, and maybe even before that, we've had a substantial problem with being able to hire people.
Recruiting is a problem.
And not only hiring people, but hiring the right person, the right temperament, the right person, the right mindset. So how, because now you're making changes from people that thought they had, potentially, that thought they had carte blanche to do whatever. How do you retain and obtain new people with all this oversight? That makes sense?
It does. And most cities who've gone through this have had some difficulties. But what I think we have to do, we have to think about changing this whole process. We have to start growing our own.
Oh my goodness.
What we have to start doing is in elementary school,
Yes.
start talking
Yes.
to people about careers
Yes.
and policing as a career.
Yes.
We have to talk about the things I talk to people about today about keeping your record clean,
Yes.
keeping yourself fit.
Yes.
Make this a desirable position. And we as a community have to start, when police start to do better, we've got to start talking about policing
Yes.
differently.
Yes.
It should be a noble profession.
Right, right.
We should really value this obligation to protect
Oh,
and
yeah.
serve.
Yes.
And we ought to be excited about members of our family
Yes.
who aspire to go into policing. I think that's what we have to start talking about. We can't just wait and look at people who once they graduate to start thinking, get them to think about policing.
Right,
It needs to start earlier.
Right.
And we used to talk more about careers in school, but I guess now the school day is so crammed and there's not that same commitment. I think we have to start earlier. Like we're building a pipeline for lawyers. We got to start building a pipeline for police officers.
Absolutely, and in the neighborhood initiatives that you talked about, police officers going knocking on the doors, because just like Darrell and I talk about all the time too about I never knew a lawyer before I became a lawyer. I only saw him on TV, but if I had someone close by that I could like live down the street or we knew them by their first name, it would make you even more comfortable with the fact that I can do this because if I see it, I can be it.
That's it. If your mind can conceive and your heart can believe, you can achieve.
Yes, yes, there's no question about that.
Well, and again, as this fly runs around here and annoys everything that we do, I mean, I think that's how your attitude towards life needs to be. It needs to be a process where you become zealously annoying. So you're zealous in whatever it is you're trying to do. I have a nephew that I used to mentor. I still mentor him, but he writes these blogs all the time.
Okay.
But what he's always saying is, anything that's hard,
Yes.
people run from. See, it's easy to. Jerome knows this is my favorite. It's easy to hang out with Pookie.
Right.
And do Pookie stuff.
Right.
But it's hard to say, that ain't good for the day.
That's right.
I'm not cool with that. Or walk away, when your friend's doing something stupid, to walk away. And really the other question becomes, if we really want policing to be better, everybody knows who are the bad apples. Everybody knows. But don't nobody want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want Pookie in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But when Pookie do something stupid, and I know he did it, I won't tell.
Well, Dad, we talked about that too before, about the reason why many of our people of color don't really call the police to come to a situation is because many times those very situations turn deadly. Well, who wants to be responsible for that? I mean, even family members can call the police about a person who's having a mental crisis, and the police officer storm in, and now the relative is dead. But you knew Joe, our uncle, called the police. So for the rest of Joe's life, he's be responsible for having Pookie killed for calling the police.
You have to figure out, Jerome, how to change that mindset. Right. You have to figure out how to clean that up.
That's what we're working on. That's what we're working on tonight. Yes.
In the community who are doing policing, then you can call the neighborhood police person and
that's exactly right.
And that police officer.
That's the one.
That person will be.
That's what it.
Exactly.
In the 1 minute that we have left, I want to tell you two quick stories. We had a family call last night. My sister Virginia Wilson started a program back during COVID. Well, we have every other week we have somebody come on to talk about this, and we had somebody come on talking about youth last night. And this young man was talking about how his life had been turned around by some program called GIFs. And he said that when he started hanging out with Jerome, hanging out with Pookie.
Been there.
He stole a bunch of stuff and he had it in his closet.
Oh my goodness.
She searched his closet and she said, "Whose stuff is this in here?" And he first tried to lie about it, and finally he said, "It's mine." And he said, "She called the police on me." His mother. But his life is now turned around. He's on the right road.
Yes.
And the police didn't come in and beat him up or shoot him or anything. They came in and he lived to tell that. That's one story, and I think that's about all the time I have. But I'd like to make a closing comment to the public. This initiative is well-meaning. The mayor is committed. I'm committed. But we can't do this alone. We need the help of our community. And for those of you who are in these other surrounding communities, let your friends in Memphis know that Memphis is better then we are presented, and we are committed to being not only the best city that we can be, but we're interested in having the best police department that we can have. That is our goal. And in the words of Nike, we're just going to do it.
Right.
All right, y'all. Thank you for watching the show. We're going to bring Judge Donald back again, and going to try to get a plan together where she can give some updates on different things when this, as things go along. Again, thank you for watching the show. We'll see you back next week.